this video we'll be talking about guitar harmonies. Harmonizing in music has been used in choir singing since medieval times. It was made popular in metal by Iron Maiden that started using it in their songs in the 80s. Now it's being used by melodic death metal bands, bands in metalcore and all kinds of different metal genres. In music, harmonizing means playing a melody a second time in parallel to the original. That second melody is moved a fixed number of steps up the scale of the song. We'll return to that in a while. When played together, those two versions of the melody will sound beautiful. You can do it with rhythms and you can do it with leads. Here are some examples from my songs. So how do you create harmony for your song? Well, you need to know the key and scale of the song. That might not be the easiest thing to find out even if you wrote the song yourself. Starting with the key, there is one key for each note in an octave. So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and so on. Very unscientifically, the key of your song is the note that you often start on and return to, like a core note of your song. Well, there are a few tricks you can use to find out which key and scale your song is in. Trick number 1, pedal riffs. Pedal riffs are very common in metal. It's where you play a loose string, and it's usually the lowest one that your guitar is tuned to. So in my case, I often play in C standard, so a lot of my riffs are pedal riffs in C. Usually the entire song then is in C. If you have a guitar tuned to standard E, your song might be in E. The second trick is to look at chord charts. You can look at the chords of your song and try to match them to charts showing which chords belong to which key. The third one, the most stupid trick, is to play a pentatonic scale over your song. The pentatonic key that matches your song is probably the key of your song. The next step is to find out which scale your song belongs to. This isn't always clear-cut. Sometimes a song moves between different scales and keys. But what you can do is you can bring up a fretboard diagram and see if the notes of your riffs, your leads, and your chords kind of fit with one of the scales. If it's a metal song, I would bet it's a minor scale, and personally I would always start with the natural minor. Let's do an example. Here's a riff from one of my songs. The tab for it looks like this. The first test we'll do is to see if this riff is in E major. The notes of E major mapped onto the fretboard looks like this. When we try to map the riff onto the fretboard, we can see that there are a lot of notes that don't match. So the green ones are the ones that match the E major scale, and the red ones are the ones that are outside of the scale. Clearly, this riff is not in E major. Let's try again with E minor. So this is the natural E minor scale mapped onto the fretboard, and the riff notes all fit, they're all green. So this riff is obviously in E minor. To harmonize this riff, we're going to move the notes of it a fixed number of steps in the E minor scale. We're going to keep the pedal notes, the loose E string, as they are, to bind the harmony and the melody better together, but we're going to move the rest of them. One of the most common harmonies is the third harmony. In the third harmony, where the melody plays note number 1, the harmony plays note number 3. So all of the notes are moved 2 steps up the scale. When we move the notes that aren't the pedal notes 2 steps up the scale, we get this. It's really important that it's 2 steps in the scale, not 2 frets on the fretboard. As you can see, 2 steps in the scale for a note is a different number of frets depending on where in the scale the note belongs. I think this was the biggest aha moment for me when I first learned to harmonize. You need to pay attention to the intervals in the scale. You can't just move it up a fixed number of frets on the fretboard. The harmonized version of the riff sounds like this. And now, for the interesting part. How do they sound together? Let's do another example, this time with the lead riff. The tab for the melody of the lead riff looks like this. It's in E minor, and it sounds like this. This time, we'll harmonize all of the notes in the riff. We move all of the notes 2 steps up the minor scale and get this harmony. The harmony sounds like this. Often, the third harmony played on its own doesn't sound quite right, but when it's played with its melody, something new and beautiful is created. Are there other harmonies? Yes. 4th and 5th harmonies are quite common. They give a slightly different ambience than the 3rd one. The 6th harmony is a kind of reversed 3rd harmony where you move the notes 2 steps down the scale instead of up. Using the 3rd harmony and the 6th harmony together is very common in choir singing. It also came in handy when Iron Maiden suddenly had 3 guitarists and they had to do 2 harmonies off of their melody riffs. We're going to look at that in The Trooper. So this is an educational video, I hope I don't get copyright striked. We'll start out by the riff played by Dave. It looks like this. If we map it onto the fretboard, we can quickly see that this riff is in E minor. And this is what it sounds like. Traditionally, all of the 3rd harmonies in Iron Maiden are played by Adrian. The 3rd harmony for the Trooper riff looks like this. However, there's no rule that says that you have to play the harmony in the closest position on the fretboard. To give this harmony a bit more body, a bit more bass, they decided to move it to a different part of the neck. Starting with the same note and playing the same notes, but in a lower position. This is where they put it on the neck. And this is what it sounds like. For Janik, they just added another harmony, a 6th harmony, so they moved the notes 2 steps down in the E minor scale, putting it here. The last 2 notes have actually been moved 3 steps down instead of 2, so they're part of a 5th harmony. I don't know exactly why, but it's probably to introduce more variation. You know, it probably just sounded better. This is what it sounds like. this is what the melody and the two harmonies sound like individually and together. Wrapping it up, I've tried to introduce guitar harmonies with as little music theory as possible. However, music theory isn't something you should steer away from, it's something that can help you. Just approach it by learning it in small bits and don't overwhelm yourself. Music theory can actually help you out a lot and fuel your creativity. What I've done here is introduce the very basics of music theory, keys and scales. Basically, all the rest of the music theory is based on those. I hope this video inspired you, and I would love to see some of the harmonies that you create on your own. Post a comment or post a link to a video that you made with harmonies based on things that you learned in this video. As usual, any questions are welcome in the comments, and please like and subscribe. Bye for now.